Happy Sunday, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. 23, that's one. Betwabu. TT, hey girl, hey. Ooh. All right, y'all. Y'all enjoy y'all day yesterday. All right, y'all. Second Chronicles 6, 7, and 8. Betwabu, Talane. Okay, not Talane. All right, you got it, girl. Betwabu. And for those of y'all that have forgotten or tuning in later and you don't know, Betwabu is a word in Bantu, one of the African languages from where we originate from. And Betwabu is a greeting that we greet one another with, and it means house of the Father. We're recognizing that we are the house of the Father, or the house of Yah, the children of Yah. So we say Betwabu, and normally say it twice, Betwabu, house of the Father. You are the house of the Father. I'm the house of the Father. Betwabu. All right. Okay. All right, y'all. So I ain't even gonna say one of my fears is, it's just gonna, it's horrible. It's gonna be horrible. I'm just gonna say this now. It's gonna be horrible. I know everybody hoping for the best and everything, but with this whole pandemic and stuff that's going on, people pressing the POTUS to open up America back, because everybody, and I get it. People got to make money. People got to live. But there were some things that were enacted for people where they can't be evicted during the pandemic. But I think people worrying about other things, like some of their bills aren't being suspended, and they just like, we got to get back to work. We got to take care of this stuff, and people worrying about being able to buy food, because food is only going to last so long. Where they say stores are not going to run out of stuff, but I don't know how true the articles are, but you got a few articles floating around here and there about some of the more rural areas are having a little bit of the stores are running low. I know the truckers are out, but the truckers are constantly running, but the loads that they deliver are being affected because of some of the other places, the produce places, the food places that are being shut down. So they may not be delivering stuff that people looking for. We already know about the toilet paper, and I ain't even talking about that. Like, for real. You got soap and water, people. If you live in a house, you got access to stuff, you got some friends, you can wash yourself. Running out of toilet paper is not really a big thing. It's really not. Although it's good to have in a modern day world. It's a really nice convenience to have. But if you run out of it, soap and water. You ain't got hand sanitizer? Soap and water. Soap and water is always the best. Shucks. Even with my bag, I ain't gonna say all of them. I say with Bella, even like baby wipes and stuff, soap and water is the best. It's a nice convenience to have when you're away from home. But there's something James always said. He said, you get that girl a bath every time you got to change her. Yeah, well, if she did number 2, I wouldn't use the wipe. Most of the time I would not use wipes if I'm home. I use soap and water because I had this thing, because she's a girl, right? And sometimes, I'm whole life full of boys. It's just, they got everything is on the outside with them, so it's easy to get them all cleaned up. But one of my biggest fears was with having a little girl. What if it, when I check her, she, maybe she didn't have to poop on her for a few minutes and I didn't realize it right away. What if it moves up and get into her lady parts and stuff? And that's just one of my biggest fears. So that was my reason behind always literally taking soap and water. And it was, I'd rather do it that way. I wish I would have done it with my boys. Not that I didn't clean them. I did clean them, but I had other thoughts about making sure my daughter was extremely clean. Not that I didn't make sure my boys was extremely clean, but y'all get what I'm saying. Women, our parts are different, so I just want to make sure that, like, seriously. So, but with them opening up, I said all that to say some places are opening places up and people not following directions. I think it was Thailand. Y'all probably saw it up there. She said, look at this foolishness. They opening up the beaches. Now, they say they open up the beaches, so you can exercise, walk, still practice social distancing. They said swim at your own peril. They actually put that in there. Swim at your own peril and stuff. And I don't know, y'all. I also, I don't know. I have a whole lot of thoughts that I would probably take a whole hour going into on details on stuff, but I won't do that. I think what's going to happen is look at everything that they've already put in place, right? Personally, a lot of people died during this run right here with the first outbreak, which is why they got a lot of in a lot of different places they built hospitals, like makeshift hospitals for extra bodies that may come in, but it seemed like the numbers are dwindling down a little bit and not as many people died as they thought were going to die. They got the National Guard already set in place. They got they got a lot of stuff in place already. Y'all think they're gonna let that go to waste? Let me tell you something. What they set in place was already right now was a national effort to get everything out that they needed to get out with the help of people. Like it's all in the news. Oh yeah, this is happening. We got to get all this, build the hospitals. We're going to reactivate the nurses and the doctors or people or whatever. We're going to do all that because why? Something else is coming, people. Something else is coming. And they need all this stuff in place already. I mean, shucks, it's been prophesied for years. And shucks, through real prophets, through false prophets, that's something that's been consistent. It's been prophesied for many, many, many years. But it also lines up with some of the things that Yahuwah says is going to happen around about this time when it's time to gather his people. So be on the lookout for that. Be mindful when you're going out and stuff. Make sure you're following the rules and everything. Just keep your head, like they said in the military, well, in the Navy at least, keep your head on the swivel. Meaning, be alert and watching at all times. But anywho, happy Sunday. It is Sunday, April the 19th, 2020. We're on day 124, and we are reading 2 Chronicles 6, 7, and 8. All right, y'all. 6 is about 42 verses. 7 is 22 verses, and 8 is 18 verses. All right. Hold on. I think I wrote something wrong. Was that 9? Okay. All right, y'all. 2 Chronicles chapter 6. Then said Solomon, Yahuwah has said that he will dwell in thick darkness, but I have built a house of habitation for thee, and a place for thy dwelling forever. And the king turned his face and blessed the whole congregation of Israel. And all the congregation of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be Yahuwah, the God of Israel, who hath with his hands fulfilled that which he spake with his mouth by my father David, saying, Since the day that I brought my people forth out of the land of Egypt, I chose no city among all the tribes of Israel to build a house in, that my name might be there. Neither chose I any man to be ruler over my people Israel, but I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people Israel. Now, excuse me. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. But Yahuwah said to David my father, Forasmuch as it was in thine heart to build a house for my name, thou didst dwell in that it was in thine heart. Notwithstanding, thou shalt not build the house, but thy son which shall come forth out of thy loins, he shall build a house for my name. Yahuwah therefore hath performed his word that he hath spoken, for I am risen up in the room of David my father, and am set on the throne of Israel, as Yahuwah has promised, and have built the house for the name of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. And in it I have put the ark, wherein is the covenant of Yahuwah that he made with the children of Israel. And he stood before the altar of Yahuwah in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands. For Solomon had made a brazen scaffold of 5 cubits long, and 5 cubits broad, and 3 cubits high, and had set it in the midst of the court, and upon it he stood and kneeled down upon his knees before all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven, and said, O Yahuwah God of Israel, there is no God like thee in heaven, nor in the earth, which keepest thy covenant, and showest mercy unto thy servants that walk before thee with all thy heart. Thou which hast kept with thy servant David my father that which thou hast promised him, and spake with thy mouth, and have fulfilled it with thy hand, as it is this day. Now therefore, O Yahuwah, the God of Israel, keep with thy servant David my father that which thou hast promised him, saying, There shall not fail thee a man in my sight to sit upon the throne of Israel. Yet so the children take heed to their way to walk in my law, as thou hast walked before me. Now then, O Yahuwah God of Israel, let thy word be verified, thou which hast spoken unto thy servant David. But will God in very deed dwell with men on the earth? Behold, heaven and the heaven of heavens cannot contain thee. How much less this house which I have built? Have respect, therefore, to the prayer of thy servant, and to his supplication, O Yahuwah my God, to hearken unto the cry and the prayer which thy servant prayed before thee, that thou eyes may be open upon this house this day and night, upon the place where thou hast said that thou wilt put thy name forever there, to hearken unto the prayer which thy servant prayed toward this place. Hearken therefore unto the supplication of thy servant and of thy people Israel, which they shall make toward this place. Hear thou from thy dwelling place, even from heaven, and when thou hear, forgive. If a man sin against his neighbor, and an oath be laid upon him to make him swear, and the oath come before thine altar in this house, then hear thou from heaven, and do and judge thy servant by requiting the wicked, and recompensing his way upon his own head, and by justifying the righteous, by giving him according to his righteousness. Okay, before we keep going, let me point out something here if y'all haven't caught on yet. And I may have done this last time. Okay, remember one of the most famous chapters we about to read in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, was it 14? And it says, If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land, right? Everybody in the church knows that, right? But if you don't realize, that is an answer directly to King Solomon for this prayer that he's praying right now. Listen to the words of this prayer. I'll go back. Let me go back to 19. Pay attention to the words of King Solomon. Have respect, therefore, to the prayer of thy servant and to his supplication, O Yahuwah my God, to hearken unto the cry and the prayer which thy servant prayeth before thee, that thy eyes may be open upon this house this day and night, upon the place where thou hast said thou wilt put thy name there, to hearken unto the prayer which thy servant prayed toward this place. Hearken therefore unto the supplications of thy servant and of thy people Israel, which they shall make toward this place. Hear thou from thy dwelling place, even from heaven, and when thou hear, forgive. If a man sin against his neighbor, and an oath be laid upon him to make him swear, and the oath come before thine altar in this house, then hear thou from heaven, and do and judge thy servants, by requiting the wicked, by recompensing his way upon his own head, and by justifying the righteous, and by giving him according to his righteousness. And if thy people Israel be put to the worst before the enemy, because they have sinned against thee, and shall return and confess thy name, and pray and make supplication before thee in this house. Also, remember, King Solomon just pointed out another big thing. Remember how I told you, Yahuwah always stands for his people and will fight for his people, as long as they are not in rebellion against him and his laws. Even King Solomon knew that. He pointed that out. He said, if thy people be put to the worst because they have turned away from thee, and see, we've been put to the worst. We're at the worst right now. You know, a lot of us, when we see things happening for us, because Yahuwah begins to fight for us again and stand for us again and answer our prayers because we have returned to him. Okay, I just want to point that out. I'll start at 24 again. And if thy people Israel be put to the worst before the enemy, because they have sinned against thee, and shall return and confess thy name, and pray and make supplication before thee in this house, then hear thou from heaven, and forgive the sin of thy people Israel, and bring them again into the land which thou hast given them and to their fathers. When the heaven is shut up and there is no rain, because they have sinned against thee, yet if they pray toward this place and confess thy name and turn from their sin, when thou dost afflict them, then hear thou from heaven, and forgive the sin of thy servant and of thy people Israel, when thou hast taught them the good way, wherein they should walk, and send rain upon the land which thou hast given unto the people for an inheritance. If there be a dearth in the land, if there be pestilence, if there be blasting or mildew, locusts or caterpillars, if their enemies besiege them in the cities of their land, whatsoever sore or whatsoever sickness there be, then what prayer or what supplication soever shall be made of any man or of all thy people Israel, when every one shall know his own sore and his own grief, and shall spread forth his hands in this house, then hear thou from heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive, and render unto every man according to all his ways, whose heart thou knowest. For thou only knowest the hearts of the children of men, that they may fear thee, to walk in thy ways, so long as they live in the land which thou gave unto our fathers. Moreover, concerning the stranger, which is not of thy people Israel, but is come from a far country for thy great name's sake, and thy mighty hand, and thy stretched out arm, if they come and pray in this house, then hear from thy heaven, even thy dwelling place, and do unto all that the stranger called to thee for, that all people of the earth may know thy name, and fear thee, as doth thy people Israel, and may know that this house which I have built is called by thy name. If thy people, remember the stranger, that's anybody that's not Israel, the bloodborn. He said, even if they, the stranger, if they come and they call on your name, hear them as well. Forgive their sins, because they acknowledge you and they worship the only living God. That's what King Solomon is saying. Then hear thou from heaven, verse 33. Then hear thou from heaven, even from thy dwelling place, and do to all that the stranger calleth to thee for, that all the people of the earth may know thy name, and fear thee, as doth thy people Israel, and may know that this house which I have built is called by thy name. If thy people go out to war against their enemies by the way that thou shalt send them, and if they pray unto thee toward this city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name, then hear thou from heaven, and hear their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against thee, for there is no man which sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them over before their enemies, and carry them away captive unto a land far off or near, yet if they bethink themselves in the land whither they are carried captive, and turn and pray unto thee in the land of their captivity, saying, we have sinned, we have done amiss, and we have dealt wickedly. If they return to thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, whether they have carried them captives, and pray toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, and toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house which I have built for thy name. Let me pause again. You ever seen, matter of fact, they all do it. Israel, you hear them, everybody facing the east, praying towards the east. Muslims do it. They pray towards the temple, which is closely built towards land. Remember, Muslims, without getting into into all of it, that's the line. Well, okay, not all of them. Ishmael, you have Isaac and Ishmael, right? Isaac and Ishmael are brothers. Now, from Isaac comes Jacob, but the Muslims, that's a terrible term for them, right? Okay, because if you study them, and I'm talking, when you say Muslim today, a lot of people get the wrong. There is a religion of being Muslim and stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. America just kind of lumps everybody together. But if you actually do a little bit of research of the people that's still in the land over there, they refer to them as Muslims. I would not refer to them as Muslims, right? And not all of them. I'm not talking about like the some of the radical ones that be blowing up people. We're not talking about that. America does a poor job with labeling people, and people just kind of get off. But though they come from Ishmael's line or whatever. But anyway, I said all that to say they pray towards the east. You see people get down on rugs and stuff, and they praying a few times a day, praying towards the east. Like the east where the sun rises in the east. So like say King Solomon said, no matter where they at, if they turn and pray, even pray towards the direction where I have built your house, hear them. So that's the theory behind it. They're turning towards the temple. They're turning towards the place where Yahuwah has put his name. So if I was to pray towards the east, not that I just pray all the time while walking around and stuff and just talking to y'all in constant communion all day. But if you actually were to do it, you're to face the direction where the sun rises, because the sun rises in the east, which is where the temple is, which is where Jerusalem is. I'm not going to say it's in the exact place where they're telling the whole world set today, because I don't believe that necessarily. It's there on that continent, but it's not that exact place right there. That's another whole story and lesson. But let me finish. But that's why I want to say, I brought that out with King Solomon. He said even if they're in the land of their captivity and they come to themselves and they begin to pray and they turn towards it, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to physically turn towards the east, but it also just turn your hearts back to Yah, back to the place where he is, and you turn back to him. You can look at it in either way, spiritually or actually physically doing it. Ain't nothing wrong with doing it physically. Yahuwah didn't make you ain't got to be super religious about it, but it's just something that if some people tend to just do because it's just another level of being closer. You get what I'm saying? Okay, I'm not going to be the dead horse. All right. 38. If they return to thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, whether they have carried them captive, and pray toward their land, which thou gave unto their fathers, and toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house which I have built for thy name, then hear the prayer, hear thou from heavens, it says heavens, even from thy dwelling place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people which have sinned against thee. Now, O Yahuwah my God, let, I beseech thee, thy eyes be open, and let thine ears be attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. Now therefore arise, O Yahuwah, O God, into thy resting place, thou and the ark of thy strength. Let thy priests, O Yahuwah, God, be clothed with salvation, and let thy saints rejoice in goodness. O Yahuwah, O God, turn not away the face of thine anointed. Remember the mercies of David thy servant. Last chapter for today. Wait a minute. No, it's not the last chapter. 2 Chronicles chapter 7. Now when Solomon had made an ending of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahuwah filled the house. And the priest could not enter into the house of Yahuwah, because the glory of Yahuwah had filled Yahuwah's house. And when all the children of Israel saw how the fire came down and the glory of Yahuwah upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worshiped and praised Yahuwah, saying, for he is good, and his mercy endureth forever. Wouldn't that be awesome that if this would have been happening over the last 400, 500 years, churches wouldn't be closed down today. But because most of them are full of shenanigans and there's no real power or smoke and stuff that's filling the place, that the ministers couldn't stand to fulfill their duties that day, and the people would be prostrate, face down to the floor, churches wouldn't be closed. They got what is it? They got substitutes for that now. They got smoke machines. They got flashing lights and light dimmers and stuff. Get out of here with that crap. That's why everybody at home now. Let's do it over. Let's try something different right now. Now everybody seek me on their own. Let's see if we can bring that real smoke and fire into our individual dwelling places, and we take that fire outside, and then we'll see a real move of Yah. But it's happening. It's been happening for a little while now, and we're going to see the manifestation of the true sons and daughters of Yah manifest in a very, very short period of time, y'all. Verse 4. Then the king and all the people offered sacrifices before Yahuwah. And King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 20 and 2,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people dedicated the house of Yahuwah. And the priests waited on their offices. The Levites also with their instruments of music of Yahuwah, which David the king made to praise Yahuwah, because his mercy endureth forever. When David praised by their ministry, and the priests sounded trumpets before them, and all of Israel stood. Moreover, Solomon hallowed the middle of the court that was before the house of Yahuwah, for there he offered burnt offerings and the fat of the peace offerings, because the brazen altar which Solomon had made was not able to receive the burnt offerings and the meat offerings and the fat. Also at that same time Solomon kept the feast 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great congregation, from the entering in of Hamath unto the river of Egypt. And in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly, for they kept the dedication of the altar 7 days, and the feast 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month he sent the people away to their tents, glad and merry in their heart, for the goodness that Yahuwah had showed unto David and to Solomon and to Israel his people. Thus Solomon finished the house of Yahuwah and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make the house of Yahuwah. And in his own house he prosperously effected. And Yahuwah appeared to Solomon by night and said unto him, listen, y'all, I have heard thy prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people. Remember, these are things that King Solomon was praying. He said, if this happens among the people, if you send this, if you send this, if you send this. So Yahuwah is repeating, he's summing up and repeating his prayer back to him, and he's about to answer him. I read that again. Verse 13. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people. And this applies today. When this happened, if this happened to y'all, if y'all didn't turn away from him, and these things begin to happen to you or to your household, consider your ways, and here's what you to do. I read it again. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open, and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for thee, if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments. That's a repetitive thing that Yahuwah always says to his people. Even when they're not listening, he'll send the prophets out, and they'll start doing it. He said, if you will repent and return to me, and return to my laws and my statutes and commands, you can't just repent and continue going on. He said, no, begin to do the things that I told you to do. Keep the commands, because this is how you keep your life. A lot of people just think, oh, grace, the greasy grace and all that stuff. I said, no, y'all. You're missing the whole big picture. You repent, but there's something that you have to do along with that. You gotta begin to walk in the ways of Yah that he set out. And a lot of people, oh, we ain't supposed to. Don't get me started today. Figure out what you're supposed to be doing and start doing. Because if you had known what you're supposed to be doing, you would have been doing it. But if you knew and you're not doing it, now you're in direct rebellion against what you knew you were supposed to be doing that you're not doing. That's why you're in the place that you're at now. Y'all with me? Okay. 38. Then will I establish the throne of thy kingdom, according as I have covenant with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be ruler in Israel. But if ye turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among all nations. That's where we stand today. A proverb and a byword. We got a lot of bywords among our people, right? We'll need to, everybody's real familiar with the N word that we're called. It's a byword. And people look at us in astonishment. Like, Yah has truly forsaken y'all. You know, not so much, but yeah, still kind of today, but all that is changing. And this house, which is high, shall be an astonishment to everyone that passes by it, so that he shall say, why hath Yahuwah done this unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook Yahuwah, the God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on to other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore he has brought all this evil upon them. And that is why we are in the plight that we are in, our people, because we forsook the one and only living God. When Yahuwah sent the nation that he said was going to come and get us out of our land and take us into captivity, he said they're going to give you new gods to worship. Now they got our people worshiping 3 gods instead of one. Even they know, you can go into history documents and they will tell you, even letters that I had posted a few months ago. I'm gonna find that letter. I posted up there, but even in the letter, guys, we are in a state, our community, our people is in a state that we are in because we have turned away from Yah. We can't worship him and other gods along with him. I forget how they try to explain it away. What we don't realize is always him. If you hear his voice, it's not like a second spirit. It's him only. If you hear his voice, you're hearing him, not his. It's a lot of ways that it's been twisted. But when you hear people say, oh, I'm hearing from the Holy Spirit and stuff, I stopped saying it because I understand that it's Yah and Yah alone. So I said, Yah spoke to me. I heard Yah. I get people because Yah will still answer you in your ignorance. But as he's waking you up and he's teaching you and he's removing the scales from your eyes, you begin to align yourself and begin to realize, wait a minute. Because even in our ignorance, he's still faithful to us, to lead us and to guide us into all truth and where we're supposed to be. So as it's like we're children, as we grow, we begin to understand more things. And we realize, just like the whole when you growing up, you think Santa Claus is really coming unless you're one of the parents or whatever that tell your children the truth from the very beginning. Some people, they go through that, oh, it's Santa Claus. No, baby, it's never been Santa Claus. It's always mommy. You were a child. It's time to put away childish things. It's time to grow up. Here's the truth about it. But the thing is, they should have been taught the truth from the very beginning. So now you don't have to go through that period of adjustment and trying to fight against their will because you taught them lies from the beginning. Tell them the truth from the beginning so that way they can grow up solid, not looking at you like, well, why would you even lie to me in the first place? Because children tend to do that as they get older, and it's like, why wouldn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? Some people don't get that, but I'm telling you, it's always just to tell you the truth from the beginning. Now, if you got lies from other people, Yahuwah will bring correction, and he'll bring someone along your path. If you're not hearing directly from him for whatever reason, Yahuwah will tend to put people in your path, like the prophets and stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be a prophet. He'll use who he can use, who's available there, to help you, to help open your eyes until you get to the point where, you can learn to converse with him one-on-one without middlemen. That's what we all have the ability to do. Some of us choose not to do it. Like when he brought him out, he said, oh, Moses, hearing his voice might just kill us. So you go talk to him and you bring back to us what he done said, and then we'll agree and we'll do everything. Like, don't be them. Don't be them. Want to hear from him directly for yourself. As for thee, if thou wilt walk before me as David thy father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, and shalt observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish thy throne of thy kingdom, according as I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be ruler in Israel. But if ye turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up by the roots out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name I will cast out of my sight, and will make it a proverb and a byword among all nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to everyone that passed by it, so that he shall say, why hath Yahuwah done this unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook Yahuwah, the God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them. Last chapter for today, 2 Chronicles chapter 8. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, wherein Solomon had built the house of Yahuwah in his name, that the cities which Huram had restored to Solomon, Solomon built them, and caused the children of Israel to dwell there. Hey, guys, what is that noise? Turn it down. Turn it down. Isaiah. And Solomon went to Hamath Zobah and prevailed against it. And he built Tadmor in the wilderness, and all the store cities which he built in Hamath. Also he built Beth Horon the upper, and Beth Horon the nether, fenced cities with walls, gates, and bars, and Baalath, and all the store cities that Solomon had, and all the chariot cities, and the cities of the horsemen, and all that Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and throughout all the land of his dominion. That's Wabu, Jeremiah. As for all the people that were left, of the Hittites, and of the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which were not of Israel, but of their children who were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel consumed not, them did Solomon make to pay tribute unto this day. Pay tribute, pay taxes. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no servants for his work, but they were men of war, and chief of his captains, and captains of his chariots and horsemen. And these were the chief of King Solomon's officers, even 250 that bare rule over the people. And Solomon brought up the daughter of Pharaoh out of the city of David unto the house that he had built for her. For he said, My wife shall not dwell in the house of David, king of Israel, because the places are holy, whereunto the ark of Yahuwah hath come. Then Solomon offered burnt offerings unto Yahuwah on the altar of Yahuwah, which he had built before the porch, even after a certain rate every day, offering according to the commandment of Moses, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feasts, 3 times a year, even in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks. The feast of weeks they call Pentecost. It's not Pentecost, it's the feast of weeks. And in the Feast of Tabernacles, remember the Feast of Tabernacles is like Sukkot, or the Feast of Tents. And he appointed, according to the order of David, his father, the courses of the priests to their service, and the Levites to their charges, to praise and minister before Yahuwah, as the duty of every day required. The porters also, by their courses, at every gate. Porters are also gatekeepers or guards. For so had David, the man of Yahuwah, commanded. And they departed not from the commandment of the king unto the priests and the Levites concerning any matter or concerning the treasures. Now all the work of Solomon was prepared unto the day of the foundation of the house of Yahuwah, and until it was finished. So the house of Yahuwah was perfected. Then went Solomon to Ezion-Geber and to Eloth at the seaside in the land of Edom. And Huram sent him by the hand of his servants, ships and servants that had knowledge of the sea. And they went with the servants of Solomon to Ophir, and took thence 450 talents of gold, and brought them to King Solomon. And that, my people, beautiful people, is our reading for today. My title is wrong for today. Sometimes I'll look at the reading ahead of time, and based on what we're reading, I'll come up with an overall theme. For some reason, I must have went a chapter ahead, because I labeled it wrong today, and I put the Queen of Sheba. But that doesn't start until tomorrow. I don't know how I did that. I must have. I think I know how I did. I think I counted wrong. Because when I was sitting upstairs, this was before I even grabbed my stuff, I just picked up my phone app and I was like, okay, we're here, without double checking myself. And I'm a day ahead on the title. So the title for today is going to change from the Queen of Sheba to something else. But it's going to change. So if you look and see that, what they call the Queen of Sheba today? No, I'm going to change the title. So, and I'll probably use that title for tomorrow, but then I'll probably just change the title for tomorrow since I already then messed it up. So, but anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. We read 2 Chronicles 6, 7, and 8. We are on day 124 of year 2 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, or the Old Testament. It is Sunday, April the 19th, 2020. Okay, y'all. So today I'm going to make a post about the new moon that's coming up. Remember I said I want y'all to track with me so y'all can actually see with your eyes. I'm going to pull out some scriptures and stuff so we can see. And so how you can see how Yahuwah calculates the year, according to his calendar, and how he calculates the timeline of the earth, and for the feasts that he commands us to operate in. Now, here's the thing. This is why we're going to test this, because some people, they just, like I said, some people just like to go with the flow. Some people don't have the time that I have. Not that I have a lot of free time to research. It's just I've been doing it so long. I've learned how to incorporate it in my day with all that I have going on. So it's a normal thing for me. I'm able to ingest a lot of information while I'm doing multiple things, because I'll let things play in my ear over and over while I'm moving, and I can concentrate on some things a lot. I don't know. I tend to do a lot of things that some people may not be able to do to make it frustrating, but I've been doing it so long, it's kind of easy for me. Okay, so anyway, we got the new moon, the next new moon, which is also the beginning of a new month, according to Yahuwah, and we will be going into the second month of the year, according to how Yahuwah calculates it. Now, here's something that I noticed, kind of looking ahead at the calculation of the days, that the Sabbath days and the feast days. When Yahuwah says the feast days, there are Sabbath, with the exception like Passover and the first day of unleavened bread. What I notice is the long feast, they begin and they end with the Sabbath, but it's like the way it's lined up, they're set to where they already fall on a Sabbath day. And I realized, I was like, wait a minute. It just blew my mind, because it all lined up so perfect. You got to write it out or see it in front of you, on paper, to see. If you downloaded the app that I told y'all to download, look at it. If you don't understand it, just kind of go through, click on the buttons till you get familiar with it. Read the directions in the app on how to look at it and some of the frequently asked questions or whatever. It's not a lot of information. I think it's four or five frequently asked questions, but it explains some things, and it'll help you understand what you're looking at. And you see the dates, how some of them have, I think the orange light means that this is a new moon. Click on it, and at the bottom it'll show you from dawn to dusk, and the time the sun rises, the time the sun sets, and all this stuff. It's really, once you understand what you're looking at, it's really easy to understand. So by just kind of talking to y'all, some people may be getting confused and not really understanding. I want you to actually start paying attention and looking outside while we're doing it, because it'll help reinforce your learning and what you're seeing and what you're reading, and it'll help you understand it a whole lot faster. Now, by doing this, I was like, you remember, y'all hear me say there has to be some kind of way to test this, because we've been celebrating the Sabbath on a certain day every year, because that's the way the Jews, they didn't kind of set it up, but they done moved it around a couple times, and they just kind of set it here on Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. There's a lot of things that we're going to learn here in the coming days about days and how they actually go, and some people, they may not agree with me, and that's okay, but I'm going to show you in the scriptures where it says it at, y'all, and I'm telling you, once you see it, you're not going to be able to unsee it unless you just don't want to. You just want to stick with what you've been taught. But when we line up, there will be a blessing that will come to our life. That's how we can test and prove this. And it won't just be a theory. It will be set in stone with you. And that's why I'm getting y'all involved. Let's test this together. Let's test it and prove it to be the truth or not, right? So if I miss something, I want y'all hey Pam, did you see this? You think about this? I don't know, Pam. I don't think that's right. Tell me. Let me know. Let's look at it together. We can, just go through this. But I'm just saying, it's rather exciting, y'all. It is. It's rather exciting. So we're gonna do it. We still, for now, until I decide to go ahead and boom, we're just gonna do it. But we're gonna line up according to Yahuwah's calendar when we're doing certain things. Granted, we'll still follow the Gregorian calendar, regular calendar days, like today is April the 19th, Sunday, 2020. We're still going to follow that. You still got to follow for your work schedules and all this stuff. But lining up as being Yahuwah's people, lining up doing the things that we know we're supposed to do, then we'll begin to see a progression and an acceleration in our life, in our jobs, in our businesses, whatever it is. You'll begin to see your faith grow. It'll increase, and you'll realize you can just ask y'all for stuff. Not to say you're going to ask them for anything amiss or whatever, but you'll begin to see your prayers answer almost like daily within 24 hours. Like I've been telling my mom, I was like, it's been blowing my mind. She said, that was like, what, less than 24 hours? I said, yes. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to get the people involved so they actually can see this, so they can begin to literally experience Yah in a way that they've never experienced him before. Guys, it will blow your mind, like seriously. But we're gonna do this together. We're gonna look at it and we're gonna line up. And I want y'all to share y'all thoughts, experiences, what's happening with you, however y'all is blessing you, whatever, So, like I said, I've been doing it for a little while. Some things I didn't quite understand. Some things I understand a whole lot more this year than I did last year. But I knew last year, I was like, wait a minute. I don't think the Sabbath is right. According to what I'm reading, it moves. I said, because of these transition days, it's not always going to fall on the same exact day. It's going to always be the 7th day. And then I ran into the issue like, no, the Sabbath has been a continuous count. How can you track that? Yahuwah sets it up to where if we lose count, that's why we have to announce the new moon every single month. It gives you an opportunity. If you've been off on account, it gives you an opportunity to reset yourself so you can get back on track. There'll never be more than a period of 30 days where you will be off track with Yahuwah's calendar and his count. That's why the seasons are split up, and you can tell the different seasons from whatever's in. It should take, if you're off count based on the season, you can see the season. Well, sometimes, because sometimes like people getting snow in spring and so I was like, well, what? But we can clearly tell if we paid attention to the early signs and the flow of things, we can tell where we're at by season. Well, at least here in Virginia, I can sometimes. Just, y'all get what I'm saying, right? But you should be able to quickly get your count back right and line it up. And when you line it up, you'll realize the feast days coincide with, at least the long feasts coincide with the Sabbath days, because they're 7-day feasts. Unleavened bread is 7 days, but Passover is the day before, which makes it 8 days, and Sukkot is 8 days. So it's like from Sabbath to Sabbath, but the first Sabbath is like you got 2 Sabbaths back to back. Passover, then the first day of unleavened bread. Both of those are Sabbaths, but the last day of the feast, even this year, it fell on the Sabbath. It like lines up. And also you will see that the new moons, they're also treated as Sabbaths. And if you look at a calendar, how Yahuwah lays it out for the month, you will see like if you look at it, if you do it in like a square monthly grid, I'll show you. If you look at it like this, in a whole monthly grid, you will see, if you line it up according to the way Yahuwah tells you to line it up, you will see a pattern. And it'll start like here, like this is the new moon. Then you count 7 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the Sabbath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the Sabbath. And you'll notice the new moon and the Sabbaths all line up. And then the next month, it'll skip a week, and the Sabbaths and the new moons will be here. It'll be the new moon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sabbath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sabbath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sabbath. Then you got a new moon coming up, and then it'll skip a week, and it'll come over here. Guys, it blew my friggin' mind. I said, wait a minute. That's why I say you have to see it. Don't just try to reason it here. You have to understand it here. But once you start seeing it in front of you, it's so beautiful, and it lines up, and it's perfect. I'm like, oh my gosh. See the trouble we get into when people who not supposed to be teaching Torah, teaching Yahuwah's word, teaches it to us?
Don't blame me. Blame my grandfather.
We were taught it wrong. And Yahuwah said his word is meant for Israel to teach. Israel is to teach the world about him, not the Gentiles teaching the world about him. They got some stuff, right? Yahuwah blessed them during this time or whatever. But about him, Yahuwah said only Israel is given the job. And remember, when people come in and they decide to worship Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone and put away all other guys, they also become Israel. They're grafted in. They become Israel. So Yahuwah will bless them. And you get what I'm saying? So they become Israel. But it's the job of Israel to teach the nations who the true and living God is. That's just the way it is. It's, you got different functions for different things, just like your body. My eyes were created to see. So my eyes only do the job that it was created to do. Not that it's any less important than my hands or any less important than my nose or my mouth or my heart or my lungs. Each of these things serve its own purpose, and they're all important for what they were created to do. So don't be mad because you may not be blood-born Israel or whatever. Just because you weren't blood-born Israel doesn't make you any less important than Israel is. You know, and some people kind of get that screwed up. Even our people, when they wake up, and they just don't realize, because Yahuwah loves us all. He created all men, and he desires that all men worship him. Not just his sons and daughters, but he wants his sons and daughters to tell the world about who he is and how good he is, so that they also may come and experience his goodness, that they may be blessed as well, y'all. So God, I'm telling you, this just gets better and better day by day. All those things that we may be seeing in the world seem to be getting worse, I am not affected by it. I am like not afraid. Like Millie's talking about, like we're not scared that we're going to catch something and die, because we understand that we are being kept by Yah, because we are walking in his commands. We're keeping his commands as much as we know, to do, we do. And if we're off on the way, Yahuwah will correct our course and we'll walk, so, but y'all, I love this. This is absolutely exciting to me, and it should be exciting. So, yeah, that's Jeremiah over here belching in the background. He just finished eating. He drinking some water. So if y'all heard that, I'm sorry. Excuse him. So.
Can we get bread now? That's the only thing that I
He said, can we get bread now? Because we just came out of Feast of Unleavened Bread, and I still haven't put any bread in the house. So, all right, y'all. We done for the day. Oh, I said, where's my notebook? All right, so, tomorrow, you'll see what we're going to read tomorrow. We're going to be reading about the Queen of Sheba, but be looking out for my posts and be tracking y'all about, the new moon and all this stuff, and I'll try and explain it as much as I can so where you can understand it. I'll do like single meme posts or whatever, just kind of sum it up, whatever. And I think I may just do a video, maybe in a couple parts, and maybe just one long part. Probably it won't be any longer than an hour. That way people don't have to look for a part 1 or part 2 or whatever. I'm gonna write everything out. I'm not gonna say when I'm gonna put it out, because it's still gonna be a few weeks or whatever, because I got some things that I need to write out and make sure it's explained in the right way where nobody gets confused. Because like I said, sometimes how I hear it and I can see it up here, sometimes it takes me a while to explain it, to convey it in a way where people understand it, just like, oh, okay. It's like, what? Say that again? So, but I'll let y'all know when I'm doing that. But I'll be day by day or every other day. I'm like, okay, y'all, so this is here. And I tell you, you can follow along in the app or whatever, because the Moon app and the WLC app calendar, the WLC calendar app, it has it almost exact like what we see outside. So that's why I chose those 2 apps or whatever. And you can just kind of see, the more you look at it and get acquainted with it and familiar with it, you'll see, oh, guys, this is going to be fun. All right, so with that being said, I'm done running my mouth. The blessing, Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. All right, y'all, I love y'all, and I will see y'all bright and early in the morning.